What is a fallacy? Can you tell me what a fallacy is?
We're going to walk through first the full slide presentation, and I'm going to take time on each slide to actually make the arguments for that slide. So, as you saw, I think, in the tweets and in the DMs, they were very sus and shady about what exactly the debate was over. Again, we all know that this debate came about because of the Timcast debate. Cameron reached out to me because he wanted to set up a version of the Timcast debate. I said, let's do it. So I'll show you right here to make it very clear that trying to make it fit on the whole screen here. Yep. This is the later text where after I had asked for, I'll show you the first. Let me show you the first text, and then you'll get the point. It's not. This is the only reason I'm doing this is because they're acting like this is some sort of a thing that I made up and I'm being deceptive, and I didn't come to actually debate the topic. I sent Cameron here, as you can see, questions about the mosques, prayers by the popes, and I asked him here, are these actions okay in your mind, and did Dr. Trent agree to discussing previous dogmatic teaching on Muslims? I wanted to argue from the very get-go that the Muslims have a contradictory placement in Roman Catholic dogmatic teaching. He says, I'm sure he will be open to it, but I'm still waiting on those councils so I can send them to him. In other words, it was somehow his weird understanding that I was going to give him all my sources. And I said, I've never been in a debate where I'm supposed to give everybody else the sources. As Father Deacon pointed out, this isn't lawfare. This isn't discovery where we present all of our case. This is a debate. I've never heard of this. So, no, I'm not giving you my sources and my arguments ahead of time. This is insane. And then Cameron says, we'll shoot for this. And I said, bringing up previous dogmatic teaching is cool. Cameron gave me a thumbs up. So from my vantage point, I specifically said, tell them that I want to argue Vatican II and the dogmatic teachings. I stressed it twice. Cameron says yes. So Father Deacon and I decided that he would handle the epistemic and linguistic philosophy side, and I was going to argue that Roman Catholic dogmatic pronouncements have changed on whether Muslims worship the true God or not. Now, they opted, even though from my vantage point it looks as if that's all fine and dandy, according to two different okays from Cameron, including my request to specifically ask Dr. Trent if it's okay to go in that direction. And the answer was yes, twice. So, note that they decided after this was supposedly agreed upon. Now, either Cameron dropped the ball and didn't mention that to them, or they conferred and decided that it would be their strategy to say, I don't care what he talks about because we'll just say it's not relevant to the topic. But as you can see from my vantage point, I was in good faith debating the magisterial teaching on the Muslims. Now, these two people represent the Roman Catholic position. They don't represent a school of academia primarily. I'm sure they have their academic credentials and their various theories of reference and so forth. None of that is what is on the table from my side of the debate. My side of the debate is worship. What has the Roman Catholic Magisterium said about Islamic worship and adoration? And has it changed from the papal teaching? That's it. That's what I decided. That's why Father Deacon prepared all of this information on linguistic reference, intentionality, etc., etc. non-substitutivity of indexicals, all of that. And that's why I spent time making all these slides. Now, the Roman Catholics, the very few. Now, if you read the comments, what's funny is like they're just in massive damage control because the comments are 98% that they ended up looking like absolute clowns. And as Sneck said, this was a massacre on all fronts, whether optics, whether the actual debate, whether the actual performance, any of it, it was a massacre. Every poll is anywhere from 70 to 80% our side. So 98% of the comments, 70-80% in all polls, including Cameron's poll that he took down. So this is how pathetic and just, they're just such slime balls, man. See, do you see why I am so just impatient with the Roman Catholics? It's the same tactics that you get with Muslims. This is what they do. They just act like complete snakes. And you can't trust them. They will lie. They will do everything they can to pull these stupid, sneaky tricks. And you know what? Why is any of your tricks necessary? If you have the truth, you don't need all this stuff. You don't need a bunch of weaselly scheming and cunning tricks and tactics. And we'll get him with this. And all you got to do is present your positions, argue them, and face up to them like a man. Should be pretty easy. Here's the original poll that went up in the midst of the debate, and the poll had 733 votes, and it was 80% our side, 22% them. Cameron took down these polls, so it's damage control. That's why they're shifting now to arguing about what I agreed to in the debate in DMs. They'd rather debate that than the actual positions that the papal teachings have already said for centuries about Islam, centuries after the advent of Islam, by the way. And so Tomaszewski showed that he had no knowledge of Islam and no idea about even the history of the basics when he thought that medieval papal statements were at the early birth of Islam. It's like he didn't even know the centuries that when Islam comes about. So, pretty embarrassing on all fronts, as far as I could tell.